Welcome everybody. It is 5:30, so in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started, and we're being recorded. So Daniel, if you'll just remove the welcome screen, and if you'll pin me in your in the speaker view, then you'll have a bigger picture of what I'm doing. So that might be helpful. And you'll have a bigger picture of what the other folks are doing as well. So let me do that myself. So I'm not coming up on speaker view, so I'm not sure exactly what's happening there. Daniel, do you have any idea?
For everyone in the top right of your screen, most likely, depending on what type of a device you're using, if you scroll and see the gallery view icon, you should be able to click that and then change it to speaker view.
Great. All right, so welcome again, and thanks for joining us. Tonight, this afternoon, we are highlighting recipes for the Sabbath. So hopefully these will be useful to you in the Sabbaths ahead. Before we get started, I want to do a shout out to Ricki Rosenberg and Nancy Hoffman, who are co-presidents of the Jewish Federation of the Bluegrass, who conceived of the program. So thank you to them. And also a shout out to Daniel Baker and Kathy Grossman for their help and assistance. So we're going to start. We're going to have questions and answers at the end of the program. You can put those in the chat box if you'd like, or you can just jot them down, and we'll answer questions about all the recipes we're presenting tonight at the end of the program. If we run out of time, you can email those questions to Daniel, and the cooks will respond. So we're going to start tonight with a fish recipe, because we fix a lot of fish for the Sabbath. And I'm doing something that's a little different than the typical salmon. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll get the recipe going. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gilson Capilouto. I'm a member of OZS. I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, where my Jewish observance and traditions were nurtured in a congregation of families who came to Montgomery from the island of Rhodes. My paternal grandfather, Eli Capilouto, was the first to arrive, and others soon followed. I come from a long line of amazing cooks, and was attached to the hip of my mother, aunts, and grandmothers whenever they were in the kitchen. I'm going to share my recipe tonight for a trout almondine, and I have a bonus recipe for you, which is a Sephardic version of a kugel, which I'll show you now. And if we have time at the end of the program, I will talk you through what I did. But I didn't grow up on the traditional kugel. This is what I grew up on, and it can also be made for Passover, and it's made with spinach, and I will share it with you. But right now, we're going to do a trout recipe, and the first thing that we're going to do, I have my oven preheated to 450 degrees. And my mother taught me to always pat the fish dry before I started to cook it. Don't ask me why, but I always do what my mother told me to do. And then you always want to salt and pepper both sides of your fish, not just the side that you're cooking, but the skin side also. I use kosher salt, and I use coarse ground pepper. I'm going to put this on a rack that I'm going to spray with nonstick spray. You don't have to use a rack. You can put it right on aluminum foil that you use nonstick spray on. So I'm going to put it on the rack, and then I'm going to salt and pepper the top. And you just salt and pepper to taste. Now, the recipe that I'm making for you can be easily done with other fish. You can do it with trout like I have here. This is sustainably farmed trout that I get at the co-op, which is beautiful. You can also do it with a large half if you're serving a lot of people of steelhead trout that you can get frequently at Kroger, which is a lovely fish. You can also do this if you're in a different place than Lexington and you have access to snapper. It's great on snapper and would also be very nice on flounder. I'm not a fan of tilapia, but you could also do it with tilapia. Over in the skillet here, you see I've got some breadcrumbs. And what I did with this was I used fresh breadcrumbs. You can use any bread you want. I used bread. I've been baking a lot of bread since the quarantine, and I didn't want to eat the whole thing, so I was trying to figure out ways to use it up. So I started halfway through pulling out the insides of the bread, put it in a food processor, and grind it till the desired consistency. You can put them in the freezer and then just pull them out when you want to use it. But you can see the breadcrumbs are white, and it's a very loose kind of crumble, just like breadcrumbs you might buy. And so what I did was I put olive oil in this pan, and I'm using Storto's lemon infused olive oil because lemon goes so well with fish, but you can use any olive oil that you have on hand. Put a couple of teaspoons in there, and then I start stirring the breadcrumbs until I get a little bit of brown on them. And then I add some unsalted, dry roasted, sliced almonds. I take about a quarter cup of those and I put them in a baggie, and then I just scrunch one time like that so that they're not so big, but you don't want them pulverized. You want to be able to see the almonds. And so essentially what you want to do is you want to just keep stirring those breadcrumbs until they get nice and golden brown like you see here. Now, the bad news is you have to watch this because it will go from light brown to burned in a very short period of time. So you have to stand over it. The good news is you can do it way ahead of time. You can do it earlier in the day and just set it aside till you're ready to use it. Or you can even do it the day before and just put it in the refrigerator. Or in fact, you could do this and put it in the freezer and just pull it out when you need it. This freezes very well. So right now, what I want to show you, the other thing that I'm going to add to this is some fresh lemon zest. And you don't need much. I don't tend to use any garlic in this recipe, although I know people love garlic and they really like garlic with fish. I don't use it in this recipe because trout is a really delicate fish, and so you don't want to overpower the lovely flavor of the fish. Now what I'm going to do, I just pulled a bunch of thyme out of the microwave that I microwaved for about 1 minute. And this is lemon thyme from my garden, but you could use regular thyme. The beauty is that all I have to do now is just crunch this, and all those lovely leaves will come right off the stem, and I don't have to sit there and pull leaves off of the stem. So all I'm left with is the stems that I don't want anyway. All right, I'm gonna just toss this around. So I've got a little salt and pepper in here, not much. I've got about a teaspoon of lemon zest, quarter cup of almonds, and some really good local olive oil. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this. Can you see that? I don't think so. Hold on. Now maybe you can see it. All right, I'm taking the breadcrumb topping and I'm putting it on the fish. And you just want to make sure that you cover the whole fish. And if you have leftover topping, like I said, You can just throw it in the freezer for use the next time you make fish. This was a recipe that was inspired by a restaurant that I used to go to in Montgomery called the Elite Cafe, and it was owned by a wonderful Greek family. They had fabulous fish. We would get wonderful fresh fish because we were so close to the Gulf Coast. And they had a trout almondine that they pan fried, and then they made this rich buttercream caper sauce to go on top. So this is my lightened up version of trout almondine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the trout and I'm going to put it in this 450-degree oven. It's going to be ready in about 10 minutes. And as soon as we finish with the next section, or when we get to the end of the next part of the program, I'll show you what the finished product looks like. But in the meantime, before I go to mute, I'm going to introduce our next cooks. Ricki Rosenberg, our JFB co-president, has been making challahs for years and years. One of her biggest accomplishments is that her daughter Pamela, who's with her tonight, Pamela Rosenberg, has taken challah making to the next level. I also want to let you know that Aunt Lisa is there with Pamela, so she's helping Pamela out. She's Pamela's sous chef. Ricki will be demonstrating a plain and a cinnamon raisin challah, while Pamela will be wowing you with her famous cinnamon chip challah and her olive oil za'atar and burrata challah. They'll also be demonstrating how to make the traditional 3-braided challah, the round challah for the new year, the impressive 6-braided challah, and a vegan challah. So with that, I will turn it over to Ricki and Pamela and Lisa.
Thank you, Gilson. And thank you for demonstrating the fish. I can't wait to make it. I might try it tomorrow. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see everybody online and part of this event. So thank you for joining. This is new for me. I'm known for my challahs, but I'm not known for cooking. So this is taking me out of my comfort level a little bit, but we're doing it. And I'm so glad that Pamela's joining in. And she's in my sister's kitchen in Potomac, Maryland. And so they're in there working together. One thing that I want to add about Pamela is that she moved to the DC area about 15 years ago and got involved with the Federation there. She's very active. She is, what is the position? Campaign chair of Young Leadership, which is a pretty big deal in that community. So I'm really proud of her for doing that. And she's also on the National Young Leadership Cabinet. So all good things, and I'm really proud of Pamela. And Pamela, thank you so much for doing this with me today. I'm doing the easy part. I'm doing the, actually I was gonna just do plain, but I decided it was so easy to make it cinnamon raisin that I'll just show you how to do that. And then I'll take it to the braiding stage. And then Pamela will start with her part. So here goes. First part is the yeast. And one thing that I've learned recently from Pamela, I just use any yeast that I find, and usually I use the jar of yeast because I make so many challahs, but this comes in a pack of 3, pack 3. And so if I'm just making one challah, and unless you're making tons of challah, this is probably the best way to do it. You can get the rapid rise or the active rise. If you do the rapid rise, Pamela said that she can make her challahs in an hour and a half. And I think that's fabulous. Usually I let mine rise anywhere between 3 hours and 8 hours, depending what I'm doing that day. So I can really use any yeast, but really for last minute challah, rapid rise works great. After I have the yeast in the ramekin, I put in a tablespoon of sugar, stir it up. And this part, and I don't know, Pamela, I can give some side conversation as well?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So for me, I like to get the water hot and hot enough that I can put my hand in it, but and B, no, it's hot, but it's not burning me. So I'm fortunate to have instant hot in my kitchen. So what I do is I just get the temperature just right. Actually, that's a little drop hot, so I'm going to add a little more cold to it. And then I'm going to add it to the sugar and yeast combination and just stir it and let it bubble up for a few minutes till I need it. So you can see it now. I don't want to dump it out, but anyhow, can you see it, Pamela? Good enough?
The sun is literally on it.
The sun, we practiced yesterday, but not at this time of day. So the sun is flooding my cooking area. Sorry about that. Okay, so the first thing I do is I take 2 eggs, put them in the bowl. After I do the eggs, then I'm going to put in half a cup of sugar. And I usually just beat it up as I go a little bit, not a lot. So I've got the 2 eggs in there. I'm going to beat it for a minute. And then my next thing that I'm going to add is 2 teaspoons of salt and 1/4 cup of oil. So give me a second. And Pamela, don't let me forget to turn this into a cinnamon raisin because I want to show everybody how to do that because it's so easy. So 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 cup of oil. Pamela, if you can't see me well, will you tell me?
I will.
Okay, thank you. And again, just stir it for another minute, not even, 10 seconds. And then what I do, I go between cinnamon, raisin, and plain. A lot of Shabbats, I make both just because, I deliver them to people. I never know what they want. So I like to have a variety. Here's my cinnamon, 1 teaspoon. And Pamela will talk about that. I think, Pamela, have you decided you put in more cinnamon than I do? Yeah, I do. Okay. So I'm going to stir that. And then, can you see the cinnamon? Yeah. And I use the golden raisins. And I use half a package.
And Leanne Zimmerman said last Trader Joe's has like the jumbo raisins these days, and they're super soft. So good for that.
Okay. So now I have everything in here, and can you see? A little bit. Oh, good. Lisa, thanks for shaking your head. I can kind of catch that. Thank you. Okay, so after I do that, then I put in 2 1/3 cups of water. And I like to use warm water as opposed to cold, just because it feels good and I feel like it might help with the rising. Uh-oh. I just put in a cup too much. So I think that should be about right. Oh my gosh, not good. So after I have the cup of water in, the yeast is coming along. It's getting kind of puffy and foamy, and so I know it's working. And really, I don't think I've ever had trouble with that. Pamela, have you had trouble with rising yeast not activating?
No, instant yeast activates. You can't kill it. You actually don't even need the warm water. But
Which one?
Instant. It's
The
alive.
Active. Okay, so if you worry about that, go with the active. So when I'm doing this myself, I never measure, but for you today, I'm going to measure 5 cups of flour. And Pamela, what did I say was well, I'll tell you now because this is really important. There are 2 things that most of all to remember to do to get a perfect challah. And one is not to over knead the challah. So if you over knead it, it gets stiff. You'll see what I send when you get the recipe tomorrow. I think I say you can knead it for 1 to 3 minutes. You'll see me today not knead it very long. So what I do is once this is in here, I like to mix it with a fork first before I turn it out onto the countertop. So I'll show you what it looks like. It's pretty well mixed, good enough. And then I dump it out on the countertop. And can you see Pamela?
Yes. Yep, we got you.
Okay. So it's a little bit sticky, which is to be expected. And so I just add a little bit of flour, little more. Actually, this ratio of 5 cups of flour to 1 1/3 cup of water feels pretty good, but it's still sticky, so I'm going to need a little more flour. But the thing that I always do is I probably kneaded it for how long would you just say? 45 seconds just now? So I leave this here like this just for a minute, and I come over to the sink and I fill up that bowl that I just worked with, and I fill it up and I clean it so that it's ready to put it in to rise. What I normally do, and I don't want to spend a lot of time with this, but I always use a paper towel, because if I use a sponge like this, it's just gross. So don't do that. So I just use a couple paper towels, rinse it out, get it clean, and then I go back and finish up with my challah. So I'm going to go back to a clean bowl, so I'm not going to bother with that for too long. Hold on. So now I'm doing this for another 30 seconds, minute or so. It needs a little bit more flour, but almost done. Feels pretty good. Kind of like Play-Doh.
So you don't want it to feel sticky.
Not sticky. You're right about that. Thanks, Gilson. It's not sticky. Maybe a little sticky. I'd rather have a little sticky than too much flour.
You can always add flour after it rises, so you do. As long as it can get off the countertop, you want it that sticky.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it was just a drop sticky, so I put some more on. Pamela and I do this next step differently. So I'll tell you my way, then Pamela will tell you her way. How does that sound, Pamela? So the whole thing really didn't take 3 minutes, I don't think. So I take a clean bowl, I put some flour on the bottom, put the ball on the top, a little more flour on the top, and then I cover it. Now, when I cover it, sometimes I just use wax paper, and sometimes I use press and seal. The one thing that I can tell you is that if I use the press, well, I'm just going to use wax paper today. If it stays in the oven for more than 3 hours or so, sometimes it grows outside of the bowl. And I've had that happen many times because, as I said, sometimes I leave it in for 8 hours. So if you do that, first I just place it on top. And Pamela does this differently, which she'll tell you. First, I'm going to go to the oven, and to put this in the oven to rise, I just heat up the oven for 1 minute to 2 minutes just to get the oven warm. So it's rising for that 3-hour period or so. So I'm going to go and put this in the oven, and then I'm going to take out the braided challah so you can see me do the next step. So right before the show started, I braided a challah. And this is the finished challah, but I'm going to, before I take you to this, I'm going to show you how I got it here. Here is the ball of challah, and it's a little bit sticky. So I just knead it for a minute, but it really is good enough. This recipe will make 1 large challah or 2 medium challahs. But today I'm pretty much using the whole recipe for the challah. So what I do is I put it into 3, what feels like 3 equal parts. It's never the same, but it's close enough. You can just judge. So here we go. I take this, and probably most of you have made challah before, so I'm embarrassed to do such a plain, simple challah. But anyhow, Pamela will wow you with the other ones, but I wanted to make sure you had this. This happens to be plain, but the one that I mixed in front of you, of course, was cinnamon raisin. So, Pamela, any questions? Am I missing anything?
I think you're good.
So the cinnamon raisin one takes a little bit longer to cook than the plain. And I say 25 minutes on 350 for the plain and 30 minutes for the cinnamon raisin. What I've learned to do, and actually Pamela taught me this, is use a meat thermometer and take its temperature. We both agree that pulling it out when it gets to 170 is the way we like it. It's perfect. So anyhow, that's how we do it. Hey, Joe, my sous chef Joe is here to hold up to show you the braid. Can you just hold up the phone? I don't know, maybe you want to. Okay. Oh yeah. Perfect. So here are my three logs. I take them and squish them together at the top, and then braid them. If you've never braided challah, go on YouTube. It's the best way to learn all kinds of braids. So that's what I recommend. Now, since
Joe, tilt the phone down a little bit.
So here you can see I finished braiding, but I got this piece left over. I can stress about it or just take off a little bit because that really was a lot. And then squish them together and put them underneath. So, can you see it?
I can't see past the leaf. You got a leaf.
A leaf?
Beautiful.
Well, that was a little pressure, but okay, thank you.
It's beautiful.
So this one will go into just a warmed up oven for 30 minutes, no more. If you do it more than 30 minutes, you're not gonna have a braid. So what I'm gonna, I'm not gonna work with this one. I'm gonna go back to the one that's already risen.
Now, you don't brush the top with anything?
I'm about to.
Okay.
Anyhow, this one is considerably bigger. It's hard to know whether that's just because.
Move the plant back. I can't see.
This one?
Yeah. Here you go.
Okay, is that good?
Yep.
Okay. So here's the one that's risen. It's kind of the light is not good. Well, it's even worse. Wow. Okay. Hopefully that.
We can see it, Ricki.
You're good? Okay. So
Just
now.
put something on there on the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well.
Not
So
so good.
this is the egg wash, and Pamela has recently taught me, instead of using the whole egg, just use the yolk with a splash of water. Her challahs have been coming out more golden and just, whoops.
That was great.
Okay, all right, I got a plan.
What?
Oh, there you
Okay,
go.
so I put a splash of water in with 2 yolks. There you go. Huh. And then I'm going to brush them. Thank you for mentioning the egg wash, Gilson.
Well, I was ready to put the other one in the oven before it rose, so so there you go.
All right. So while I'm doing this, I want to tell everybody that at the end of the cooking show, I am going to be giving away a challah. And so I'm going to ask you when it's time to go into the chat room and guess a number between 1 and 50. And then we'll see who gets the challah, who gets closest to my number, or who gets my number. Either way.
And if you're not comfortable using chat, just put your number on a piece of paper and we'll have you hold it up if you get close.
Can you see this mess I've got with that
Yes.
extra egg?
It's beautiful.
I don't know why that happened. Probably because I'm on video, obviously, Zoom. So I'm just going to get rid of some of that egg. It won't be a problem when cooking it. So again, I'm going to put it in for 25 minutes. I am halfway through going to look at it just to see if it needs to be turned, if one side's getting more cooked than the other. Especially if I'm cooking 2 challahs at one time, what I do is I might move one from the top to the bottom. A lot of times I either cook it in convection. When I cook it in convection, then all the racks will brown more evenly. So you can experiment with that. So I want to make sure that I don't have flour on the bottom of here. I'm going to put this in my oven on 350 for 15 minutes. Check it after 15 and see if I need to adapt it. At 25 minutes, I'm going to take its temperature, again, 170. Guys, thank you for your patience. Pamela, you're on.
Wait, Pamela, before you start, let me show you the finished trout. So the trout's come out of the oven, and there's enough here that you could probably serve, I don't know, 2 people with that, but you see it's a nice, beautiful golden color. You can squeeze lemon juice over it, but if you do, sometimes it takes a little bit of the crunch away, so you want to think about that before you squeeze lemon juice over it. And then I love to serve the trout with simple angel hair pasta that doesn't have any cheese, but it's just tossed with a little lemon olive oil again, or your favorite olive oil, a sprinkle of hot red pepper flakes, and you can add fresh thyme to that or fresh parsley, and then a nice green salad with a lemon vinaigrette. Makes a lovely meal. Enjoy. And I'll turn it over to Pamela.
Okay, great. All right.
I don't see you, Pamela.
I know. We had the cameras working so nicely before we did this. And now, not so much. Sorry, guys.
Well,
Lisa, you have to hold the camera.
You got it.
Okay, but what about using the icon?
Okay.
Can you see her?
A little bit more up. There. All right. So we have a couple different challahs. Gilson's, I think you're still on volume. Because it's showing you and not me. I don't know. Okay. All right. And my
No, it's showing you, but now it's showing your mother. It was showing you. Now it's showing your mom.
Perfect. All right. So the easiest one, the one I do a lot, from my mom's step of when it's all like plain, I just do a lot of different fillings. So my favorite recent filling is Hershey's cinnamon chips. And so they're perfect. I think they're a good balance. So I put in a half a cup in each log. Today we're going to do a 4 and a 6 and around. So I did 4 for cinnamon. And then you just like roll it up and like pinch it together. And so once we do that, we have that. And I normally would do the next one in cinnamon chip, but just to show you another option, you can do like a cinnamon roll where you would use a little bit of butter, like a little, not a lot. And you can just like spread it very thin. And then we'll add brown sugar and cinnamon on top. And so I made the mixture, it's in a cup. We'll add that, and then I'll show you how to roll that one. So we have a mixture. Do you want everybody to come closer?
What?
I don't know, you're far away.
The thing isn't working well. Should I?
You're good, stay there. And so then you just
Can
roll
this
it.
go like that?
Yeah, you're fine. And make it tight.
It's good. You're a little bent out. That's
Lisa,
What?
it was better before we could see Pamela. doing it.
I
and you
know you
didn't have
can.
to
I
get
got
it.
it. It's fine.
I
Okay.
was, wait
It's
a
fine.
minute.
It's fine.
I'm holding it from the back. I'm actually holding up the camera. And by the way, if you hear any barking, that's because Callie wants to have some challah right now.
All right, so now for our cinnamon chip and also cinnamon roll, we're gonna turn that into a round challah. And so basically it's a checkered board weave pattern where you always have one of the alternating rows on top of the other. And so alternating being literally this one log goes over one and then under one. And then for our braid, we continue to follow that. We take what's lowest and we put it on the one above.
Okay,
Hold
I
on.
gotta get rid of Callie. Sorry, guys. Callie wants the challah. Come on, Callie. Let's go get a banana. Need me to stay there? Callie's been smelling the challah now for an hour.
They can now not see the workspace. I apologize. We're almost.
Wait. I can come back and hold it.
That would be great.
Huh? Do I need to hold it?
Okay, so we have our weave of one going up and one going down. Lisa's gonna put it a little bit lower.
Lower?
So, or we're just gonna keep them on top.
What?
You can go out with her, it's fine. Now you take another one that's the lowest and put it on top of the one next to it. And you're gonna do it again, lowest one on top of next to it, the lower one on top of the upper one. And then we switch directions for our round and we do the bottom one on top of the next upper one, bottom, upper, bottom, upper, bottom, upper. And then we just pinch them together and tuck them under, similar to how my mom did for the round one. And then we would let it rise for the 30 minutes and do the same egg wash. And then when you're done, it looks like this one. So that's a round one for the new year. And now we have burrata, mozzarella, and za'atar. And so what I use is these little mozzarella like balls. They're called pearls, I think. And you have to like dry them out really well. So similar to how Gilson had the fish, I used a paper towel, pat them dry. They can't get dry enough. Like it could take 20 minutes. Sometimes I just kind of leave it on the counter as I'm doing everything else. And the same thing as with the cinnamon chip, we'll just pinch it all together and then go to our next step.
What do you want me to do?
There. Okay. So now we have 6 strands of the za'atar and mozzarella. And so for the za'atar, and olive oil. So rather than the oil that we use on the regular one, I'm using olive oil and then za'atar, which is just like a blend of spices. And you should be able to find, if you can't find, like,
What's
I
it
like
taste like?
oregano. It's pretty strong. I'm trying to see what's in it. It's like 6 things.
Pamela's very fancy.
We'll look it up. And your 3, I'm gonna try and do it backwards, which we'll find out if that works for me.
Backwards.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be something fun. All right. Yeah, because that's right for you. So what we do here is we take the furthest one out and take it over, and then once it's over, you take the next one to the middle. So it's easier to see rather than explain. So we'll just do these 2 out to begin with. All right, and now you take the one that's like on top, so like the first one done, take it to the middle. And now you take the one that's third from that here and take that and take it over. And then you take this one, which was the one on top. And again, as my mom said, follow a YouTube video. Take it, put it back here. And as if you keep these apart, like your left and right sides, it's helpful. So once that goes through the middle, you take the furthest one out, the third position, take it over. And then this one's now the last one we did, or the longest ago one we did. Take that over. Take this one to the out.
Oops, you have to
I know.
squish it.
I'll get it. And now we take this one to the center again. This one to the out.
Lisa, can you back up just a little bit?
Nope, she means down.
Oh, down.
Well, it's kind of a little up. Okay, and now you take this one to the out. This was the longest ago one we did. To there, there, to the out. That down. Yeah, maybe. This over, this down. And the mozzarella pops out, mostly because I didn't have it all dry.
But you want me to lift it up?
Huh? Will be good.
Did you put the za'atar? Did you put the za'atar in the dough, or
Yes,
was it?
so in the step that my mom does cinnamon raisin,
Yeah.
add
Gotcha.
like a quarter cup, but that's sometimes a lot, so like a third of, yeah, a quarter cup
Cool.
to the dough. So then you have that for your 6 braid, and what's good about it is it's hot,
Gorgeous.
and so it like cooks better than a big one. But the other option for a high one is a 4 braid, and this is especially good when it's low on time. And so for this one, I put the cinnamon chips in the dough, the same step that my mom put the raisins in. So with the dough, rather than the one where we saw the filling. And so for the filling one, also you can use any spread you want. You can do peanut butter, you can do Biscoff spread, which is like the cookie, anything. So for the 4 braid, we have this to start. Just think of it as its own separate, like if you had 4 ones, but now I only have to roll out 2.
So Pam, bring it closer to you, or Lisa, back up,
I'll go up.
or just back up.
I know. You can rotate the camera if you want, Lisa. Anyhow.
No, it
No,
doesn't.
no. Never mind. You're fine.
Can you see?
A little. Here. Let's do this for a sec.
You want to take it off and I'll do it.
1 second. Yep. Now you can see, but hold it this way.
What if I just hold it?
That's what you're doing. Come close to here. Your fingers in front of it. No. Flip the camera to you. Turn it over. Now to me. There we go. So do you see the 4 braid, Lisa?
Yes.
And everybody else. All right. So now we do 4/2, 1/3, and 2/3. 4 being on this end. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, the backwards is something fun. 4/2. Yeah. 1/3. And then you just twist the middle 2. That's the 2/3. And so it gets high versus when the other 3 braid doesn't get that high. So 4/2, 1/3, 2/3. 4/2, 1/3, 2/3, 4/2, 1/3. Pinch the ends, roll them under, and then you have the 4 braid that gives it still the braid look, but it's really like
Come
more
closer.
double braid. So you have the top is how it would sit on your cookie sheet. And then you would do the egg wash from there. And so that's where I've been doing the egg yolk.
Beautiful.
And then what my mom was saying, I just don't like to waste a lot of things. So I've been using the parchment paper that I cook on as what goes on top of my bowl when the dough is rising. So when it's the first round blob, I put parchment paper on, she puts wax paper or the saran wrap stuff. So that's what we have. Questions?
Well, first, it looks beautiful, Pamela. And normally, I know from the experience of just doing this, that under pressure, the hollows don't look as good. So, but before we talk about that, this is the parchment paper that I just discovered last week. I've been using the rolled parchment paper for years and years, but this comes out in a sheet and is in 4 sections and it fits perfectly. And Pamela just showed me what she's got. Show us, Pamela. You want to pull one out?
This one, because it's 2. You don't have to do it multiple times, but it takes up a lot of space.
Exactly. So this is so much better than the roll.
And they lay flat on the cookie sheet. So that's like another nice part.
It's huge. Okay, so show us what you have, Pamela.
So the olive oil za'atar, since you see the holes of the mozzarella, which is fine, but they would otherwise leak out all over the cookie sheet. You can pinch them together, but what I've determined is good. It depends how you feel about a loaf pan. You can cook it in a loaf pan so that when the mozzarella comes out,
See it?
it's just an added bonus of being cooked and toasted a little more. So that's this same za'atar olive oil mozzarella, but baked in a pan. When you bake it in a pan, it bakes a little bit longer. Or, which I tested out today, you can bake it on 375 instead, bake it for the same amount of time. So that's up to you. And then you can also do food coloring. And so this is
How do you like this
pink
one?
food coloring, a heart. The food coloring doesn't work as well as if you put like sprinkles inside the dough for the coloring, but because it like, once you do egg wash, it dulls it, but it works. So this is pink with chocolate chips added. And
Very
it started
nice.
as a 6 braid going up and then branched off as 2 3s coming down for the shape. So that's what we got.
Isn't she talented? I'm so proud of my Lala, and I'm also proud of my sister. And this, wait,
Now we're
can
ready
you-
for,
this is my cooking skills. Wait a minute. Whoops. Can you? This is my cooking skills. Okay. And my apron.
Okay.
Hold on. Also explains my cooking skills. But Callie is having a cow outside because she's waiting for the challah.
There's also dog hair on the food today.
Very
So,
cute.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for
I
our?
do. Gilson, are you gonna can I have a tutorial on how to make the fish, please?
Okay.
The recipe?
Lisa, let's hear from our other friends.
So, yeah, and if we have, I'm not sure how long before you want to look at your challah, but I can talk about the spinach kugel if you've got a few more minutes.
I think we do. How's our time looking? So the challah will take about 10 more minutes.
Okay.
So, and then we'll do, so you go, if that's okay, and then the challah will be ready, and then we'll do the picking of who gets the challah, and then we'll wrap up.
So, like I said, I did not grow up with traditional kugel, so I guess this is the closest thing we had to kugel, and it's called a kwajada, which in Ladino means casserole, and this is a kwajada de spinaca. And essentially, when we used to could get curly leaf spinach, we'd actually use fresh spinach, but you can't find curly leaf anymore. The only thing you can find is baby spinach. So we use frozen spinach nowadays. And essentially what you want to do before you get started with cooking is you want to defrost that spinach. And I actually, my cousin Susan just told me she has started using cheesecloth to draw all the water. So you take that frozen spinach and you chop it really fine, because sometimes frozen spinach can be stringy. So you chop it really good after it's defrosted, and then you pile it into some cheesecloth and you just twist it and you just squeeze all that water out of it. And for this, for example, I did that yesterday and just put the chopped, squeezed, dried spinach in the refrigerator to make it a lot faster today for me to cook. So really, I shared some of this with my friend Ronit, who's on the program today, and she described it as a crustless quiche, and that's really a good description of it. But you take the spinach, but before you put the spinach in, you take eggs and you mix the eggs. You're gonna work moisture back into the spinach with the eggs and with cottage cheese. So you put eggs in there, and I've got in the recipe, I'll have all the proportions. Eggs, you mix eggs and cottage cheese. Then when that's mixed, you're just using a fork. And then when that's done, you add cheese. And you can use Parmesan, Romano, Asiago, or I like a combination. So I tend to use Parmesan and Romano. You can also, and I've got these notes in the recipe that you'll get tomorrow, you can also do feta. I don't like the feta that you can buy in most places. If you can find a creamy Bulgarian feta or an Israeli feta in brine, then it's going to have a little bit more moisture. If you just buy the feta that's in a block, it's very dry, and I don't think it does well at all in the recipe. But anyway, you do the cheese, you mix that in. Then I add the spinach and I add fresh dill. That's optional, but I think it really makes it nice and bright. Fresh dill, and then a cup of cooked macaroni, and we traditionally use elbow macaroni. You mix all that up, and you want it to have a little bit of a squeak to it. So if not, it might be too dry. If it's too dry, you add another egg. But in the meantime, while you're mixing that, you've taken your Pyrex or whatever you're going to use. This is a odd shape, but this is a recipe for a 9x9. You put that 9x9 greased Pyrex in the oven cold, and then you preheat the oven to 400. So once the oven preheats, you pull it out and you put the mixture in, and you'll actually hear it sizzle when it hits the Pyrex, and that's going to give you a nice crust on the bottom. Before you put it in, we top it with a little egg wash that's with egg and cheese on top. And when it comes out of the oven, it cooks for about 25 minutes. When it comes out of the oven, we put wax paper on it immediately, and that's to prevent it from cracking and drying out. It's really good cold. It's good served warm. You can make it kosher for Passover by substituting the macaroni with a 1/4 cup of farfel that you've put in a little bit of hot water, and then you just squeeze the farfel dry, and you just crumble that into the mixture, and you can make it kosher for Passover. We serve it for almost all the major holidays, and it makes a great light lunch as well with a nice salad. So I hope you enjoy that. It's a favorite family recipe.
Looks delicious. So I think it's about 4 minutes away, Joe. Oops. Oh, okay, hold on. He's going to bring the phone.
What we can do is we can go ahead and do the numbers and see who wants challah.
Perfect. Let's do the numbers. So if you know how to do the chat, put in a number from 1 to 50, and let's keep it coming. Go for it. If you don't know how to do the chat, write it on a piece of paper, hold it up, and Daniel will take a look at it. And let's take another minute. In the meantime, I am oh, actually, this did not rise long enough, actually. This is supposed to rise for 3 hours. I jumped the gun. Yeah.
Well, the numbers are flooding in, so that's good.
Oh, perfect. Is any Daniel, can you see, is anybody writing it on paper?
I cannot see anyone writing down anything on paper. Gilson, if you can check, I'm checking a few different things right now, so double check for me.
I'm looking across. If you've put something on paper, just hold it up.
There are a few people on video only, but
I don't see any
Can you
paper.
see mine? Mine is up with a 25. Can you
No,
see
I
that?
didn't see it.
Thank you,
Linda
Linda.
Duxenberg.
Linda, we got yours in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like everybody's
Yep.
in. Here's, are we you ready, guys?
Yep.
All righty. Here is the winning number.
I got it.
No way. You did not.
Oh, that is just not fair.
Well, you know what? I was gonna. We'll keep it like that. That'll be good.
That's
Actually, Daniel or whoever's looking at it, we can do the next person too, because I'll have two challas.
right. Let's do that.
Let's do one more. One more. Gilson will get one, but also one more.
So
The next closest, I think, was Nancy, who guessed 18 first.
that's great.
Who did 25? The person who did 25.
Wait, who did 25?
Somebody did 25.
I did 21. What is the number?
Oh, 22.
Oh, 21 wins.
Okay, so who's 21? I don't see you yet.
I'm up at the top next to Gilson.
Was
There you are.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So
Perfect.
Nancy, I'll share my challah with you, baby.
That sounds perfect. Perfect. And
All right.
Aileen,
We've got about 4 minutes, so I'm gonna let Ricki
Okay.
check her challah. In the meantime, I just want
Okay,
to remind
Jill.
everybody we're doing this for free, but of course, we'd love any donations that'll help us finish up the 2020 campaign. So if you haven't given yet, please take time to do that. In 2 weeks, we'll be back again, and we're going to have some wonderful salads. We've got 4 salads to share with you, so make sure you make a note in your calendar to be with us in a couple of weeks. Ricki?
Okay, perfect. So I put the thermometer in. It doesn't look quite done to me. This has been 25 minutes. But I will say that when you put it back in, even 2 minutes, it just rises very quickly. It looks like it's about 150. So I'm going to take this out, put it back in for 2 minutes and check it again.
Great. Does anybody have any questions? All right, so you'll get your recipes tomorrow. And this time, Daniel was in charge of recording, so we have the entire hour of cooking and not just part of it. Thank you, Daniel. And like I said, in 2 weeks, we'll be back to do salad. So if you're enjoying this and having fun with it and meeting some new people, please tell your friends, and because we'd love to have a big crowd. We'd love for our crowd to grow. I believe the number of participants this week was a little bit larger than last time, so that's great. So with that, we've got a couple.
Can I just say, I want to thank Gilson, Kathy Grossman, and Daniel for putting this all together. Thanks, Gilson, for cooking, and to Ricki and Pamela. This was great fun, as was the last one. And thank you all so much. We look forward to the next one.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I bet Rick.
Thank you, everyone.
Good.
Thank you, everyone. It was lots of fun. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Pamela, too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.